Very excited to be joined now by Major League Baseball's all-time hit king, Charlie Hustle himself. Pete Rose is the author of the new book, Play Hungry, The Making of a Baseball Player. Pete, this is a great read. You go into depth in the book that just came out this week and is available for baseball fans and anyone really a fan of sports. You go into depth about a lot of different topics. Your career, your life on the baseball field, off the baseball field, your relationship with your dad, gambling on baseball, the state of the game right now. What was it like for you? What was your favorite part of this process, putting the book together?
I think it was probably giving a tribute to my father, who was the reason I played the way I did. And you have to understand, I grew up in the 40s and the 50s. We didn't have much going on except sports. And I was lucky enough to have a father who was a great athlete. Played baseball, played football, played basketball. I was the water boy, I was the bat boy, I was the ball boy. So I was always going to a sporting event. And my dad worked at Fifth Third Union Trust Company, a bank in Cincinnati, for 37 years. And he probably was the best football player ever to come out of Cincinnati. So all while I was growing up, I was always learning fundamentally how to play the game of sports from watching my dad, not reading about him, from watching him. And my dad in the next generation was a bigger and better opportunity. But he's the reason I was punctual. He's the reason I was aggressive. He was the reason I had great work ethic. Those are all things that it took to be a big league baseball player. I remember when I was 9 years old, I had an uncle who signed me to a contract. And he didn't have his biggest success in baseball till the age 30 when he became a switch batter. So my dad wanted me to be a switch batter. I'm 9 years old. And he told the coach, he said, listen, I want Pete to bat left-handed against right-hand pitching and vice versa, and he'll never miss a practice and he'll never miss a game. That was the pact he signed with my coach. You know, because in today's world, a lot of great players don't play in the Little League Championship because they're on vacation. My dad wasn't going to take his son away from the team during the summertime to go on a vacation. Never on a vacation in my life until 9 years ago.
Wow.
And except once a year, we drove 2 hours from Cincinnati to Madison, Indiana, to watch the Madison Regatta, which is the boat races on the river. Wasn't much of a vacation. We went home that night. But that was one of the reasons. And, you know, my fiance, we go to Cabo a couple times a year. And that's the only place I've ever been where I'm not working. You know, I've been to Japan, I've been to Taiwan, I've been to Puerto Rico, Venezuela, those places. But if you go for 4 or 5 days, you work 2 or 3 days. So I've never been anywhere when I wasn't due to come in and go to work.
You talk a lot in the book about many of the high moments in your career, whether it be some of your accolades, statistics, some of those important games throughout your career. You also talk about some of the mistakes you made.
Sure.
Is there one regret you have? What's the greatest regret when you think back and reflect on your
Well,
career?
if I could change my life, obviously I wouldn't have bet on baseball. I mean, that's the worst thing I could have ever did. You know, I paid the penalty. I've been suspended 30 years. They took the game away from me that I loved. I still love the game of baseball. I still support the game of baseball. You know, you may think I'm crazy when I tell you this, but I think I'm the best ambassador baseball has. To my knowledge, I'm the only baseball player in the United States of America today that goes and signs autographs from 11:30 to 4:30, 20 days a month, in a store, in three different stores in Vegas. It's like playing a doubleheader every day, and I'm talking positive about the game. There's a lot of great players out there playing the game of baseball today. And there's a lot of not so great baseball players playing the game of baseball today. Personally, I don't like the way the game's played today. I don't know about you, but you get tired of, there's too many home runs. There's too many strikeouts. And, you know, they're up. The home runs are up, the strikeouts are up. And I might tell you, attendance is down. So if I'm the commissioner of baseball, I got to be concerned with the attendance being down. Because when you're hitting all these home runs and you're scoring all these runs and it seems to be exciting, you know, people want to see some baseball.
Right.
They want to see a guy hit a base hit, steal second, go to third on the ground ball, score on a fly ball, win the game 3-2. Not wait for a 3-run home run in the 9th inning. They're exciting, but it's too much.
Right.
It's
right.
too much. I believe, I told someone this the other day, you may think I'm crazy, but I think everybody who plays baseball today, everybody, is a potential home run hitter based on the ballparks, based on the pitching, and based on the hardness of the ball. I believe that I'm saying the ball was juiced,
Right.
but it's wound tighter because the ball was going further. Okay,
Right.
I played with some pretty big guys in my time, and they didn't hit 490 foot home runs. I saw a ball the other night,
Yeah.
a foul tip at Anaheim. The Angels were playing. I saw this. The ball hit behind the dugout, a high fly, a pop-up, bouncing to the second deck. Now, if that ball's not juiced, what are they using, Titleist?
Yeah, Titleist Pro V1s. Pete, I want to ask you about baseball fans. I know you mentioned signing, for fans hours a day out in Las Vegas. You interact with a lot of baseball fans. Americans are a forgiving society. Do you think you've been forgiven by baseball fans?
Oh yeah, majority of fans, sure. Well, if you go on how many autographs I'm signing or selling in Vegas, and by the way, I have to tell you this: that Vegas is the only place where my gig works. Last year, 42 million people visited Las Vegas, Nevada. Okay, and I work in 3 different art and music stores. We got one at MGM, one at Mandalay, and one at Mirage, and we try to follow the the different things that come in, the conventions that come in. If there's one at Mandalay, I'll sign at Mandalay. If there's one at MGM, we'll go to MGM. And because of every 3 days, thousands leaving, thousands come in, it's the only place where that gig works.
How about Major League Baseball itself? I know your reinstatement request was denied by
Yeah.
Commissioner Manfred in 2015. The Hall of Fame denied the request in 2017. Why haven't you been given a second chance?
Good question. I don't know. I understand what happened in 1919 with the Black Sox scandal, with Joe Jackson. I wouldn't have headed down that road, but baseball does what it does. And I'm not here to badmouth baseball. I'm not going to use your show or any other show to complain about being suspended because I'm the one that messed up, okay? Mm-hmm. But I'm willing to go on with my life, so people should be willing to go on with their life. I didn't affect you by betting on my team to win. I didn't affect him. I didn't affect Liz. I didn't affect anybody. Okay, so I get a kick out of people who says, "Oh, he affected me by betting on his team to win." How did I affect you? How did that affect your life?
And it's clear. I mean, you mentioned it yourself. 30 years. You feel you've paid your price.
Well, this is kind of interesting. I think. I guess that'd be the word, but. I'm not worried about the Hall of Fame. My fans know what kind of player I was. My family knows what kind of player I was. My teammates know what kind of player I was. I made the Reds Hall of Fame. That's my hometown. And by the way, the Reds have the best Hall of Fame of all 30 teams. I got a statue at the ballpark. I got my number retired. They play on Pete Rose Way. That's good enough for me. Sure, would I like to go to Cooperstown? Sure, I'd love to be in Cooperstown. Everybody in his or her sport should want to make the ultimate goal is to go to your Hall of Fame. But I'm not going to live the rest of my life worrying about it. Okay? So if they put me in if I die, okay, I got a son named Pete Rose, I got a grandson named Pete Rose. So someone can give a speech and thank him. Okay? But I'm not worried about that. But I've been watching the Hall of Fame since '68 because the first year I played was '63. And I played against a gentleman by the name of Stan Musial. And he made it 5 years after he retired, and he retired in '63. So almost everybody's went to the Hall of Fame since '68. I played with or against. So I know a little bit about what's going on at the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I want to ask you about modern-day sports gambling. I know you've said that you don't believe gambling is morally wrong or anything wrong with it. Do professional sports leagues need to embrace gambling more, modernize a bit, evolve with the times now that it's been legalized around the country?
They will because of this. Let me ask you a question. This kind of caught me by surprise. This happened about a week before the season started. I don't even know if you're aware of this or not. But every day, there's 30 managers in baseball. Every day, they have to send their lineup 15 minutes before the game to Major League Baseball. And Major League Baseball sends it to the MGM Grand. Now, does that seem strange?
Well, it's clear those lineups affect the lines, right?
Well, that's where baseball is with the gambling situation, which is fine. If they need to make more money, they need to make more money. But you can gamble in almost every state in the country now. So it's no big deal. It's really not a big deal. And I don't live in Vegas because I can gamble.
Right.
I live in Vegas because that's where I can do what I do. But I thought that was kind of interesting because I was a manager for 5 years. And I think I probably got more things on my mind 15 minutes before the game as opposed to make sure I'm emailing my lineup to Major League Baseball here in New York, and then they email it to the MGM Grand.
Let me get back to the current state of the game. You talked a bit about some of the problems you see with the game. Overall, in your opinion, what is the greatest problem with Major League Baseball right now?
Too many home runs. You know, you're never going to speed the game up. People talk about speeding the game up. You know, every inning, there's 6 minutes of commercials. Okay? So what's 9 times 6? 54. So how are you going to speed the game up when you have 54 minutes of commercials every night? They're sure in the hell not going to take the commercials off the game. Right. Okay? And it's amazing how people are in such a hurry, it seems like today. Are you a Met fan or a Yankee fan?
I'm a Mets fan.
Okay, you're a Met fan. You go to the game tonight. The game takes an hour and 45, an hour and 50 minutes, and they win 1-0. You're happy as hell going home. Now you come back tomorrow night, and the Mets get beat 15-2, and the game took 3.5 hours. You're mad on the way home. What's in the hurry?
Right.
You know, did you ever watch the last 2 minutes of a basketball game? Did you ever watch the last 2 minutes of a football game? It's going to be 3.5 hours. Right. Just get over it. You know, if you're in a hurry, don't go to a sporting event because they drag out. That's just the nature of the games. Does that make any sense to you?
It does. I agree. I'm one of the people that says, what's the difference between 2 hours and 47 minutes and 2 hours and 52 minutes? If you need those 5 minutes that bad, stay home, right? I want to ask you about modern-day stars, though. Yeah. Guys like Mike Trout, Jose Altuve, Bryce Harper. What do you think guys like this need to do to help not only grow the game, but change the game for the better right now?
Well, they all change the game the way they play, the guys you just mentioned. You can throw Harper in there. You can throw Trout in there. You can throw Yelich in there from Milwaukee. You can throw Altuve, who's hurt right now. But what I look for in a great player like the ones we just talked about is making other players better on their team. And because when you have playoffs, which you do in all sports, you do in baseball, you have a couple tiers of it, you want to see the great players. You don't want them home watching like I'm watching, you know, because you're trying to sell the game. You're trying to sell the game. So if Harper's in the playoffs, if Trout's in the playoffs, and it looks like Trout's not going to be in the playoffs with that team, the guy from Milwaukee will probably be in the playoffs. Altuve will probably be in the playoffs. Those are the type of players we want to watch. Like if you watch a Super Bowl, you want to see Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? Right. Because he's one of the best quarterbacks ever. And if you're a basketball player, you want to see Michael. You want to see Kobe. You want to see LeBron. You want to see the great players. And that's just the way sports is. And these great players have to try to do something to make their teams better. But the general manager has to surround them with better players. I was talking to Liz, who's with Penguin, and you know what makes a good coach? Let me ask you. You look like a smart, intelligent athlete of some sort. What makes a good coach in all sports? There's one thing that makes a good coach. You know what it is?
Leadership, Pete?
One thing and one thing only.
Connection with players?
Good players. You know any good managers that have bad players?
They don't exist.
People don't understand that.
Yeah.
You got to put a lineup, and you know, like Aaron Boone right now, he's putting a lineup in of young players, and they're playing their butts off. What's going to happen when Judge comes back and Stanton comes back and DeGregorius comes back? They're going to have a heck of a team. Right. What's the difference in Boston last year and Boston this year? Last year they won easy. Cora was a god of baseball. He's the same guy running this year. They're 9 games out because the players aren't producing like they did last year. You got to have good players to be a good manager or a good coach.
2 last questions for you. Who's the modern-day player right now that reminds you of Pete Rose?
Well, I don't have one. I guess the closest guy to me would be Altuve, but I was a switch batter. Mm-hmm. He's just a right-hand hitter. He plays hard all the time. And up till the last couple of years, he played injured a lot. Yeah. But there again, he don't need to play injured anymore because he's making $30 million a year. See, you know. Let me ask you a question about this. I think this is interesting. You and I as players, it's great. You and I as fans, it's not so great. It's great if you get a multi-year contract for you and I as players.
Right.
It's not so great for you and I as fans to give out these multi-year contracts. Because you give a guy $15 million a year for 5 years, why is he worried about playing injured? Why is he worried about playing every game? You know, Sparky Harris used to tell me, and this is true, think about this. Give me 25 players, that's how many you have on a roster, that go to spring training every year on the last year of a contract, and I'll go to the World Series every year. Why? Because they will not miss games, they'll play with aches and pains, and they want to do well to get a new contract. Does that make any sense?
Sure, they're playing
My
for their
first 16
paycheck.
years in the Reds, 1-year contracts. What's that mean? I got paid in 73 for what I did in 72. I got paid in 75 for what I did in 74. My first multi-year contract is when I went to the Phillies, and it's all in that book you're holding right in your hand. Show them the cover, attaboy.
Right there.
Come on, get on my team.
Oh, thank you, Pete. I will hop
That's
on your
it?
team. No, I got one more for you.
Better be a good one.
You've had one of the most fascinating careers in the history of baseball. Your successes on the field, your controversies off the field. What's the one funny or wild story from your career that you look back on very fondly?
Well, probably one of the funniest was we're playing at Crosby Field, which was before Riverfront, and it's safety patrol day. Remember when the kids that wore the safety patrol did the traffic after the game and everything? So there's 10,000 of them there, and I'm running out to center field, and I could just feel somebody running behind me. And I look back, and all I can see is these breasts going like this. And it was Morgana, the wild one. And I kept running, and I had to stop it because the fence was there. I couldn't scale the fence. And I looked at her, I said, honey, you're going to get in trouble. You know what she said? I sure in hell hope so. You can see she knew what she was doing. I was the first guy Morgana kissed.
She planted one on you?
Like this, like this. I'm going... Don't do like this.
So
I ran out of space.
You couldn't even escape her.
Yeah, I was dead. Caught dead.
Well, there's one more claim to fame. The first one ever.
Yeah,
that
you got to be
Morgana
first,
to.
don't you?
Oh, you know, yeah. You
You know, later
number
on
one.
in life, she owned a minor league baseball team.
Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. I went over to see her one time when she worked over in Kentucky, right across from Cincinnati, and just to say hi to her, and she was in the back. And she had a stack of mail writing guys that were in Vietnam, signing pictures for guys in Vietnam. So she was a pretty good chick.
Yeah, what a great story. The book is Pete Rose, Play Hungry, The Making of a Baseball Player. It's out right now. Pete Rose, thanks for being with us.
If you love your dad, you'll read this book. If you appreciate your dad, you'll enjoy this book.